All right. Oh, hi, John. Hi, Shelby. Glad you're here.
Good
Hi, happy to be
afternoon.
here.
All right, Jen, you're
Yeah,
on.
thanks for tuning in today. I thought we'd do things a little differently today in the fact that I'll ask some questions and then maybe we can go around the group and you guys can respond just so we get everybody's challenges and what's working well and everyone gets a chance to talk. So we're talking about effective avenues for communication. And my first question was, what is your biggest challenge that's facing you now? And then, as I said, if you can address that, then perhaps some of our colleagues can find good answers for you. Does anyone want to start?
Oh, Pennsylvania will go first, right?
Okay, go PA.
Um, so when we're talking about communications, we're talking primarily to our end result customers, correct? That's what we're gunning for here in this discussion. Just making sure, Jen, that that's correct.
Sure. I mean, I think
Okay.
just we share the same responsibilities, and I think no matter what your issue is, we can all,
Well,
you know,
I'll
delve in
mention
and see if we can help you.
yeah, let me just mention what Pennsylvania is up to, and I'll go from the end result customer or the end customer. And Anson, the assistant administrator, is on with me today. And Anson, if you would talk about how we communicate with our instructor base as well. Um, but for end result customers, we are just starting to crack the surface. And I think a meeting or two ago, I had mentioned that we're just starting to formalize a plan, and there's nothing formal about it at this point. But we do acknowledge that our communications down to the, as I call it, boots on the ground, has been poor to non-existent in the past. And one of the things that the commissioner of Pennsylvania is striving for is to have a better communication with those. And we've done some, last year, we went out on the road to 18 different stops around Pennsylvania and had town halls, I would say, with the commissioner and myself and a couple others to address those fire chiefs and maybe mid-level management of fire departments. And that went over very well. And we were able to take a lot of questions back from that and complaints as well. Um, but that was more commissioner level, if that makes sense to the group here. One of the things that we do want to do is reach out to that end result customer. And as we build our Acadis database and have the email capability, we will be able to email out as a blast to the majority of the people that we have in the database. We haven't set up any parameters to that just yet. We've been using it hit or miss a little bit with different types of groups or audiences in Acadis. But our main goal down the road is to be able to market the Fire Academy testing, certification testing that may be going on, and anything else that may come up that we feel maybe the boots on the ground need to hear. And once again, going right down to that end person. Um, and I would say, asking this group, thinking of it in that realm, if anybody does anything like that in this group, is there anything, most importantly, that worked really, really well or was an absolute failure that we shouldn't do it again?
So if nobody else has something to say, coming out of New Hampshire, I know that we had a lot of problems. So I'm rather new to my role, but I've had a lot of discussions with the director about how we went about communicating better with the fire chiefs and the people down below. And one of the biggest things we did was go on those town halls. So that would have been my first item I would have addressed. And I appreciate that you guys have already taken that step. The second thing is we basically have put together a monthly report that says, hey, this is what we've done. This is how we are impacting your sort of division of state resources. And these are the opportunities we have coming out for us. So that's the higher level one. And we try to make so our fire chiefs meet, I believe, the second Wednesday of every month. We try to get that to them in advance of that meeting. So if they have any questions there, they can always come back and talk to us about it. The other thing we do is we have a separate instructor newsletter, which I don't know if you guys go about it the same way we do, But what we'll do is on the same monthly cadence, we'll send out an instructor newsletter that's just all of these specifically instructor related items that we just want them to know, like, is monthly testing coming up? Do we need instructors in new roles? Are there development opportunities? What kind of state deadlines do you need to know about? And we have had a lot of positive feedback on that, just because it brings a lot of transparency to how the state works and what they need from us. And of course, there's the ability for them to come back and say, hey, this didn't really answer my question. Can we address this moving forward? And we have done that in the past.
What communications avenue do you use to send that stuff out?
So the primary one is email, but we also have the way we schedule instructors has an internal messaging system as well. And we find that's the easiest way to get a hold of the instructors. Police chiefs, yeah, it's usually just email, just they know it's coming top of their inbox at the beginning of the year. Social media hasn't really been all that helpful, except in the cases where we know chiefs are looking for specific courses we're promoting, where it's like, oh, hey, you want your firefighters to be full-time? Great. They have to meet these state requirements. And we'll put out a blast on social media saying, hey, these are the ones we have throughout the year. And then we'll put out reminders as they get closer. That's been okay, but generally speaking, email is the preferred platform right now.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to talk about their biggest challenge facing them at this point?
I
Go ahead and
I can just jump in and follow Harvey here. From the instructor standpoint, the main line of communication right now is email. We have put out a few webinars to update the changes, personnel changes, the upcomings, those kind of things. And the attendance is not mandatory, so you know what that's kind of like. Those that are engaged are attending. I kind of like the idea of the newsletter, but email is generally the avenue of communication. There are a few different texting groups out there. I've started exploring some texting apps such as like GroupMe and stuff like that to develop specific chains. The communication has greatly improved. It's still not where we want it, but we're always looking for avenues and ideas. But getting the engagement on the other end seems to be the difficult part.
I was going to say that's the same thing. In Kentucky, we've worked the last 2 or 3 years to really ramp up our game when it comes communicating to our firefighters and to our personnel and everything. Is the problem on the recipient end when people don't seem to pay attention to what's in there, or they say we didn't know about it. Well, it's gone out in the weekly email list. It's gone out on the website, on Facebook, on our app. It's gone out to 5 different avenues and they're not getting it. For example, we are currently accepting applications for our annual training facility grant. And we offered a couple of sessions on how to ensure you're properly filling the form out. We do that with some of our other programs, 749 departments and over 18,000 firefighters. One of the sessions we had 5 people come up, and another one, I think we had about 40 people in. So people then want to complain about not getting information, but it's really not our fault. We're putting it out there.
And Jen, if I can, just, my perspective on communications to my customers, the NAFTD membership. And I'm constantly challenged by trying to strike a balance between what's the correct amount of messaging to send out. It's primarily via email. I've tried different survey platforms. I've tried different attachments. I've tried QR codes. Honestly, I don't think for my membership, our membership, I haven't found that sweet spot. But one of the challenges I have is because I use our membership email list as kind of our membership roster. When I do a calendar invite, like for this meeting today, and I create the calendar invite, I use the NAFTD general membership email list as the attendees. And at the time I generate the calendar invite, I also add notifications so that automatically recipients get notified a day before and then an hour before. And I do that so because I'm a one-person show and we have a lot of meetings going on, it automates pushing the notification reminder out there to have people aware of it and to hopefully encourage attendance. I had one member email me about 3 weeks ago and saying, listen, you got to take my boss off the list. He's tired of the 30 emails he got today. Now, I don't know how I generated 30 emails, but obviously there was an active discussion going on in our email thread, along with some updates, along with calendar updates and people. So my challenge is, what's the right tool to communicate in a timely but not a overburdensome manner, so people don't just say, oh, that's that again, and they delete it. They don't pay attention to the message. They lose the message, and then they're reaching out to me saying, where's the Zoom link? When's this taking place? What's the agenda? So that's my challenge.
And I would think if you're getting one complaint from, the number of people you're sending emails to, perhaps it's just that person and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, we got
Because-
about 110 on the email list.
Yeah, because I agree. I think that's a helpful way to do it, and it's a reminder right before the meeting. I think it makes good sense. I communicate a lot of our programs and meetings via social media, but you're not sure that somebody logged on or looked at it. So I think email is, more direct.
I would also ask what you're doing regarding your email subject lines, because I feel like there are ways to let people know exactly what's in that email before they even open it. And that can sometimes be helpful if you're starting to get people who just glaze over what emails you're getting. If you specifically say, hey, this is this meeting Zoom link, then it's really hard for them to come back and say, oh, did you send the Zoom link? And the answer is, did you check your email inbox? Because it's right there in the line. Now, if all you have is just the name of the meeting in every subject line, then just a
Yeah.
consideration. I imagine you do something a little bit closer to what I'm imagining than the worst case, but just an idea, maybe varying the subject lines might also help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing I try to do is to put action needed so that people seeing it will know that I'm being invited to do something, and there's usually a deadline associated with that, and hopefully that piques their attention to open it. And I try to put what the call to action is in like the opening line of the email, so that if they're skimming it, they can get it right away and make that decision.
That sounds effective to me. Anybody else want to talk about what's their biggest challenge at this point?
I wouldn't necessarily talk about a challenge, but to go back to what Harvey said, I think it's a multi approach. I don't think there is one silver bullet that addresses whether you go all email, because we do a newsletter. That's my biggest pain in the rear, is just having enough time to sit down and do a monthly newsletter, because it pretty much has to come from me. And then we do the stakeholder meetings. If anybody follows me on social media, I travel extensively through our 92 counties. I also have 10 regions where I have them go to meetings. We schedule 4 meetings a month that we put out in the very beginning of the year, where anybody can come within their district region. Where we're going to pass out information so people already know in advance of that. If we know there's something specifically targeted, we go back to old fashioned email. And then obviously for us, though, we've had really good on social media, putting stuff out. We put everything out on social media, all 10 districts. And then we created kind of like the Facebook group here that was shared earlier. We created a Facebook group called Indiana Firefighters. And then we have some moderators. We allow anybody to post anything fire service related in the state of Indiana. And that thing has over 30,000 members, which obviously they're not all from Indiana. You know how you get all the bots and stuff. But it's a one-stop sharing place on social media that gets drives numbers. And then something else that we did, and I'll put it in the chat. This is more from class advertisements. Is we reached out to our PIO at the DHS. We created, it's kind of like a flip magazine, and every Friday we update all 10 districts training opportunities, and we allowed other people to advertise, even classes that charge that are outside of our the academy. And this drives a lot of traffic on the training to get the firefighters. Because what I found out is a lot of fire chiefs, if we passed, because we also engage the Indiana fire chiefs and such, they won't pass on the information, because if they got, you know, money for 2 seats, but 10 people want to go, they got to make, you know, 8 other people mad. So they just don't pass the stuff on. So we're conditioning all the young firefighters in every one of our entry level classes. We give them this link. And so if they want the education, they don't even have to hear the information from the chiefs associations or any of their chiefs. They can go directly and see the time that it's advertised, where it's at, the cost and the fee. And then that way, if they want to go on vacation and go to it, that's an avenue. So I don't know of a silver bullet. I just know that it is a nonstop job. I could do just that on top of being a director and still not make everybody happy. As someone said, they say they never heard it, but we approach it from multi avenues. So I don't know if that helps or not. But and I'd say one last thing, Harvey. If you're going to go into the ACADIS, and I'm not knocking ACADIS because they started in our state, that doesn't always work as well either, because they are blacklisted by a lot of the Yahoos and a lot of the Gmail accounts as spam. So you have to work with people's IT. So we also, on top of that, which is a little more work, we have actually created like some spreadsheets of all of our students. We capture their email address when they come in, and we let them know that we're going to blow them up when they come in as a student. And then we do direct emailing even outside of the CADIS to get around some of the blacklisting. So,
John, are you using Maestro by chance?
no, we just either do
Okay.
direct emailing or through a CADIS. But a
Okay,
CADIS
thank you.
CADIS is blocked by a lot of city ITs.
Yeah, we've come to find that out. Thanks.
John, did you ever consider, lessening the frequency of the newsletter to every other month?
I would like to do it like maybe once or twice a year, but
Yeah.
But at currently our PIO from the DHS, they put out a monthly one for like response and recovery. So they're on me majorly because they have a whole group that does all the state newsletters through their email chains and such. And they want something every month. But I'll tell you right now, I didn't put one out in April just because of FDIC and everything else going on. So they're always on me. But yes, I would love to go to every other month at minimum, but I've just not won that battle yet. So
Yeah, we're quarterly, and that's plenty. I feel the struggle of getting it done all the time too. And that's, 4 times a year, so. Anybody else? I think we touched upon this already, but I'll just throw it out there. What's the most effective tool you are using to reach your audiences? We good with that?
Yeah, I don't know that it's our most effective. I feel like I'm overwhelmed by the amount of different things we put out as far as email, social media, and that kind of thing. We have regional coordinators, so we have our state divided into regions. We have 10 regions and 8 coordinators, and they try to attend as many county association meetings as possible so that we can get to the volunteer departments and the smaller departments. They requested something that they could print off. So about a year or 2 ago, I started going old school and doing a regular newsletter and keeping in mind that they might be printing it off on the department printer, so low ink. And that's kind of one thing that's worked really well. The guys in the field really like having something that they can take tangible to the county association meeting, and they've got notes already written for them of things that they need to tell, all the departments about. So, but same struggle with having time to do a monthly newsletter. We have a briefing once a month where we have a Zoom call that everyone in the state is invited to join, and the chiefs groups from around the state, as well as the Fire Marshals Association, our commissioners, us, everybody gets a little report of anything they've got that's coming up. There's probably 2 or 3 months that we don't have time to do one that month, but it's usually the second Tuesday of every month. And I use my director's notes as the basis of our newsletter from that and build on it from there. So that's something that's worked for us.
Yeah, I've been feeling the pinch too as a one-person department. Just so many tasks to accomplish and not quite sure how to tackle them all. We just started our strategic planning process and where we lay out what our next 5 years look like. And it's pretty cumbersome. We're surveying our instructors, our students, our employees, our partner organizations, and then compiling that information and forming a group of employees who will kind of determine the strategic planning process, and then that has to get fine-tuned by me and printed, and it just seems like a lot. I'm not sure how we're going to fit that all in. I think it's an important process for sure, and I'm looking forward to getting it done, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get it all done yet. Has anybody else done that? Do you guys do a 5-year plan or a strategic plan?
I can talk about that just for a minute.
Sure.
The group at PEMA, our top end group, has employed somebody from an office that changed when the governors changed, and strategic planning was one of her expertise. And they brought it to the office of the state fire commissioner and the fire academy, and it wasn't very successful because I think it went too broad and tried to include too many people without a direct leader to kind of guide the ship. We still have it. Some of the things that we pointed out in the very beginning, which was done actually through surveys of external and internal partners, we did 2 years worth of surveys for that to guide us. Some of the things that we put out as objectives were accomplished anyway because we're starting to move the ball forward. We have a whole new energy within the office, both in the office of the state fire commissioner and the fire academy. And some of the things that we just knew were broken, we fixed, and they were put as objectives. So fortunately, we do have a strategic plan. Unfortunately, we don't visit it enough, and it's only about 2.5 years old. We do want to return back to it, but with a different outlook of who's going to be involved in that process and what's our next step. The short-term plan of the first 2 to 3 years, I think we've accomplished probably 60 to 70% of it. But now, as you say, the next part is planning for the next 5 years.
Harvey, you felt like you had too many people involved in the process. Do you know how many people were driving it?
Well, the first was it went from 2 people to a committee, and the committee was developed from numerous employees, and then we opened it up to all the employees. And I think surveying employees is important and getting their feedback, but put 35 people in a room and try to get a consensus. It's not going to work. I think that applies to a lot of the things that we all do. Bigger committees tend to be convoluted. And I think in the planning stages, especially, I think it should be top end people for strategic planning with comments and surveys in from everybody involved. But it just became, and in all honesty, time. You've all said it. Where do we fit this next thing that we want, that someone wants us to do? How do we add that to our list of everything we want to accomplish?
Yeah, thank you. That's insightful on the numbers because I'm not sure I think we're going to have about 20 involved in like a 2-day strategic plan discussion that's going to be moderated. So hopefully that's not too big. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Okay, so now you get to hear another issue we have here since I'm in charge of planning the agenda. There's a big focus at University of Maryland on AI and how we're going to implement that on our side with first responders. Is anybody else's organization involved in thinking about it or actually moving forward?
We're talking about things not at the speed I think we should be, which worries me. And we've got basic like AI checker on our project checkers for certification needs, but otherwise, like I would love any resources that anybody's got. I'd love to look at whatever you're looking at.
Jen, at our FDIC meeting, Sean McCary, who's on the call, did a great 45-minute overview of AI for state training, provincial training. And he's going to continue that conversation when we have our annual conference in September up at Lakeland. We're in West Edmonton. We're spending one whole day at Lakeland, taking a tour of the campus and whatnot. And Sean is going to do a deeper dive on AI for state training. Sean's overview was a very high one, talking about what do you get in the free platforms, what do you get from the paid platforms, how is he using it, what has he learned from it, what are some takeaways about ensuring you're not crossing the line of what's ethical and legal and all those things. So it was a very, very good, and I know he's on, so I'll see if he wants to share anything else, but highly informative, a great starter, and from my opinion, my observation, based on the feedback I got from our member at the FDIC meeting, most academies are thinking about it. Few have done much with it, but the majority want to understand it and begin doing something with it. But they're very concerned. It's a very new tool for us, and with our attention to high fidelity training that results in accreditation and certification, and the testing and the rigor and the boundaries that have been put in place with that as a tool, it's a concern. But as Sean said, he's basically using it for anything administratively he can to help loosen his workload. Sean, did I say that correctly?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. I apologize. I don't have my video on. I'm just on the road actually back to the college, so just listening in. But that was going to be my first question: is in what capacity are you looking to use AI? If it's in the background to help you do administrative or course development, things like that, or if you're actually thinking about it as a tool for a responder to use in the field, I think those are drastically different. As Ken said, I was able to do a presentation at NAFTD. I really, really enjoyed it. I actually did a little bit more of an elevated presentation last week at the IFSAC conference, or the IFSAC spring meetings last week. And then it was all AI conversation after that. So I really, really enjoyed meeting with them. I know Colorado, and as well the training division in Malta has actually reached out and asked if I could deliver that presentation for them and their training associations as well. And I'm absolutely happy to do that with anybody. I just really enjoy using the tool and want to further the community with what I'm up to. So I'm happy to dive into that or give anybody a deeper look at what we've got going on and how we're using it and how we're trying to exploit the hell out of it.
So Jen, if the work group is of the mind, I'm sure if you wanted to work with Sean, we could coordinate a NAFTD webinar.
Yeah, I think that'd be
on-
really helpful for all of us on the communications end.
Yep, on AI. But I think that's a great way, the work group on behalf of the membership, connecting with someone who's an advocate for a communications medium or a tool that can help you in managing communications, and just coordinate with Sean about availability and whatnot. And I'll be in the back. You tell me what you got, when you want, how you want it, and I can set up the Zoom meeting, send out the invite, get the membership there.
I'm on board.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. As I said, we're getting pressure from the university, but we're not quite sure. And I am by no means an expert, so getting an overview would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to do a webinar, probably no more than an hour. I can rush through it and do a very similar presentation to I just did Day of Stack last week.
Super. I'll get in touch with you, Sean.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments on AI? There was an interesting segment on CBS Sunday Morning, I believe, yesterday. I don't know if anybody caught it. It was one of the, brains behind AI and how it got started. And he was talking about how it's going to end the world. So that was an interesting perspective. But always good to see all sides of something.
Well, the fire service said that about NFPA 1500 when it first came out, and we're still here.
There you go. My next question was, how do you encourage members of your organization or constituents to share story ideas with you, either for social media or newsletter?
So I know for us, we have an ops meeting every week on a Monday. So for the ops meeting, I'm mainly there as just an attendee. I'm not one of the presenters, but what they'll do is they'll run through everything that's going on in the academy this week. Who do we need people to have things for? And there is a moment in there where we have discussion points. Hey, is there anything someone wants to bring up? And that's usually where I get my little nuggets of additional story information where it's like, oh, hey, we're launching this new initiative. I'm all over that. And it's the kind of thing that they wouldn't usually tell me because I sit up here next to the director and the AD. They're not going to walk over here and tell me this. But by participating in that lower level meeting and just listening for those kind of key points, that's the big part. And in the time I've been here, since I've started doing that, they've actually started coming to me more directly whenever I'm walking around. So I think it's a very gradual thing, but the best place to start is where are these people talking about, where these stories might originate. So whether it's monthly briefing, weekly ops meetings, I don't know, sitting at lunch. Hopefully not. Don't talk about work at lunch, please. But point being is I started by going to where they are, and now they come to me with them. And it works out very well.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a great way to do it, Shelby. I did that for a while too, and then I kind of fell out of the meetings, but I gotta make my way back into them because there are certain people who knock on my door all the time, but a lot more is happening that I'm not aware of, and it's hard to manage, what's going on at headquarters and our other 6 regional offices. So it'll be helpful.
Is there any possibility for you to delegate, to sit back and be like, hey, or someone you have a really good relationship to say, hey, I know I don't have time to attend so many of these meetings anymore. Can you keep an ear out for me? I don't know if it's possible, but
can't hurt. Anybody else have an alternative way they get information? And I know we've talked about this before, but I wanted to revisit it because I'm always having issues with issue, but how do you send out your electronic publications?
In Kentucky, usually I link everything on a website. It's just much easier for social media or our app, and then I direct everybody there through a different way. Depending on the size of the file, we'll include it in like an email blast to our list. We're, I think, 1,100 strong now on the email list. But yeah, for the most part, I create it on a web page on our website, and then we send the link out to that. Now, the good thing is that it drives traffic onto the website too, so.
Yeah, I put the link onto our social media and website, but we use issue as the base, and Then we use Maestro to send it out, and we've got 43,000 subscribers, which scares me every time I hit go. But I just feel like there's got to be a better alternative, because I get questions then from people who are like, I can't print off of issue, or this isn't opening properly. I am not a tech person, so I spend some time troubleshooting for them.
So I actually visited with some people at FDIC when I was there that they like to send things on Flipbook or issue. And I said, they're like, well, what do you think? I said, I really like your publication. I enjoy reading it. I absolutely hate that I cannot download it to a PDF, because if I can only read a couple pages here and there, like if I just need a mental break or while I'm eating lunch, I want to read that in a downloadable form. I do not want to have to log in, try to remember my credentials to log in, then mess up 37 times and have to reset everything. But yeah, I like to download it. That way, if there's a page I need to print out, it's a lot easier too. So yeah, I cannot stand things like that from a user-friendly standpoint.
Understood. I don't think I have any more questions. Is there any other topic that anybody wants to bring up and share with the group? No burning questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate you all coming together today. And again, if you have any topics that you'd like to be on the docket for future discussions, please let me know. And I'll get with Sean and make sure that we send out a communication with regard to his AI presentation. And I guess that's it. Go forth. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Thank you.
Take care.